Hi and welcome to the Why Choose Your Business series of modules. My name is Simon Parnell and I'm with the Department of State Development, Infrastructure, Local Government and Planning in the Bundaberg-Burnett Regional Office. Today I'm going to be having a look with you at demonstrating value. The advice that we'll be providing during this webinar is of course generic in nature, and we have put a disclaimer on the screen. If you'd like to pause and take a moment to read the full disclaimer, you're more than welcome to. Also displayed throughout the module today will be the questions and answers chat box. If you would like to ask any questions, just click on the little question mark demonstrated on your screen there, and we will endeavour to, it'll come through to us via email. We will return to endeavour that email or a phone call to you within 2 business days. So why is demonstrating value so important when responding to a government tender or trying to win new business? Value is often sold as the secret sauce or that sort of magic part of replying to any tender where if you get that right, you'll get anything right. And in some respects that is true. You'll often be faced with situations where price is not actually being considered, and it's going to come down to really you having a point of difference, or at least being able to sell your unique point of difference that will often enable you to win tenders or at least score more points in your response. So how do we go about truly understanding what value is? It's a difficult subject in as much as the old saying says, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And the same can be said with value. What might mean all the value in the world to yourself may not mean that much to someone else. So it's really about trying to articulate what your value proposition is, how you put that forward, and how you make it relevant for the person that's reading your tender response. So I'd like you to imagine, if you will, you're sat in your office. You've got a beautiful new laptop computer. It's exactly what you asked the boss for. All the bells and whistles, all the features, everything's right in your world at this moment in time. And one of your colleagues comes along and says, hey, I've got an umbrella. Would you like it? Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking, do I need an umbrella in an office? Yeah, look, it's a nice gesture, thank you very much. But in the back of your mind, you could also be thinking, what on earth am I going to do with this umbrella? It doesn't really seem to sort of hold much value for you at this point in time. Now, something happens and the sprinkler system gets set off, and now we've got water spraying from the roof, and there's your beautiful new little laptop in front of you. I wouldn't mind betting the value in that umbrella has probably just gone through the roof. All of a sudden, you're probably ready to grab it from them, burst it into life, get yourself and that laptop underneath the umbrella and shelter yourself from the water. So instantly the same product, the umbrella, has gone from having 0 perceived value to probably a rather increased perceived value. And that's great, you know, that's what happens with value. But the other thing that happens along the way too is what it actually costs you. Now, I don't necessarily mean monetarily. There's often a cost, whether it's time, labour, money, whatever it may be. But there could sometimes be a cost associated with a transaction that you're about to make. So if this person said to you, look, I'll give you the umbrella and can you maybe do me a small favour later on? Bit of a no-brainer. Yeah, that's fine. We'll take the umbrella. Thank you very much. But what if? What if the ask was a little bit more than that? What if this person maybe wanted to share the umbrella with you? Well, the umbrella, or share the laptop with you even. What if they sort of wanted to say, look, you have it one week, I'll have it the next. Now, all of a sudden, you're starting to think, what are my options? Do I really want to sort of part with my laptop for you know, one every other week? So you sort of would consider things like, well, maybe I can just quickly close it up and stick it under my jumper, or I could maybe lean over the top of it and try and stop it from getting wet that way. You would start to look for other things or other solutions to your problem. And then we introduce a third dynamic. What if someone came along and said, well, I've got an umbrella too, and I'd be happy for whatever it may be. And again, it could be a small favour, a small fee, could be whatever. That is what happens in the marketplace very much. So you have a product or service, and look, umbrellas have value. You know, they're very good at what they do. They can shelter you from the rain, they can shelter you from the sun, they can stop sort of dirt and particles getting on top of you, and there's a lot of uses for umbrellas. They're valuable. But it's in the time and the place and the space that you want to use this that can sometimes enable you to put a value almost on the value of that particular umbrella. So what we're really sort of trying to say here is that value is sort of the regard or the respect with which you sort of hold something in. It's going to be relative though to the cost of holding that belief, and it's also going to depend on what other options are out there at the same time. So what we're trying to say here is that value, it can be perceived differently. Again, we said, one man's trash is another man's treasure. That would be worthwhile bearing in mind when trying to come up with value propositions for your business. And the key here is really around who is your target audience? Who are you pitching to? What are they looking for? That's probably the key sort of the whole essence of trying to pitch your value. What are your clients or the people that you're providing or your product or service looking for at that point in time compared to what others on the market are offering? Value it's not constant. It will change from time to time. And the big takeaway I'd like you to have from this particular slide here is that value is not what your clients are going to expect from you. You only have to switch on the radio these days and listen to, or look at the television too, and look at a number of commercials where people will tell you how many years experience they've had and all these things about offering great customer service. Well, your customers actually expect you to be knowledgeable in your field. They expect you to have good customer service. So putting that forward as your proposition for value is not always the strongest or probably the best way to pitch it. And I think, look, we've seen in recent times, the mass rush on toilet paper. Toilet paper probably not valuable most of the time, except for when it's not on the shelves, and geez, that changes the story then. Have a think too to companies like Netflix. When companies like Netflix first came out, or any sort of streaming service, the value that they offered was the ability to log into something and watch programs on demand as and when you want to watch them. But nowadays those streaming services are becoming more and more and more. And companies like Netflix, they realise this. Therefore they changed the way they operate and simply stopped saying, the value in our offering is that you can watch videos whenever you want on demand, and actually started producing some of their own content. And then in the value proposition they put forward that, using local sort of actors and local production teams and trying to localise some of that content. So there's a good example of companies that are forever looking at ways at increasing their value offering because they know that line has shifted. So looking at your value proposition, we've tried to put a little bit of a magic formula here for you, and I'm not saying this is the most extensive, but I think this sort of works in regards to helping you frame what your value proposition may look like. So we've discussed sort of value in its very high level essence as to what it is. And a value proposition then just moves on to say that it's the value that you offer plus the assertion or the language that you're using to sort of reassure or convince a potential client about your product or service. How good you are at sort of telling that story about what your value really is. So value plus the way you tell your story divided by what your competitors do. Because if we're singing from the same song sheet as our competitors, that value proposition is going to get watered down very, very quickly. Think to a number of those sort of major supermarkets, they all sell fresh fruit, they all offer EFTPOS and, cash-free checkouts and all those sorts of things. The difference between the two or three or four often is not that great at all. So then you'll see additional dollars being spent on specific campaigns trying to invite you into store with a point of difference. And whether that's, giveaways or coupons or whatever it may be, they're having to find ways to sort of try and articulate their value proposition above and beyond. So remember, whilst you very, very strongly believe in your product and service and what it does, whilst you're very, very good at telling that story, if it's very much a Me Too story because your competitors are doing the same thing, you may need to look at other ways to express that value proposition. Great conveyors of value proposition, children. Look at any sort of 6 to 11-year-old child and look at the way they convey a value proposition, particularly things like, Mum, Dad, Nana, can I have a Tim Tam now? Now, it's not always the question of can I have a Tim Tam. They'll slam it straight into the reasons why they should have a Tim Tam now. Things like, if I have a Tim Tam now, I won't be hungry later and that'll save the bread so that Dad can have his toast in the morning. Kids are very good at finding ways of telling that story. So next time you're stuck or you're wanting to know how you might tell a value proposition story, go and hunt out the nearest little kid and listen to them trying to pitch something to Mum or Dad and how they go about doing that. We touched earlier on about what your customer's really looking for, what they want, and it's different things for different people. Again, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Some may be looking for strong relationships, others might be looking for agreed quality, we might be looking for value for money, maybe a focus on systems. One of the good things with Queensland Government and trying to sell into Queensland Government, if you like, is the fact that we pretty much put out there what it is we're looking for. There's a thing called the Queensland Procurement Policy, and in there it details the types of things that we see as good characteristics for spending taxpayers' money on. Have a look through the Queensland Procurement Policy. You'll see things in there like sustainability. There may be some nice little areas where you do something particularly well. Sustainability, environmental friendliness, the way that you deal with other suppliers, whether you're local or not. There's a number of things within that guidelines that actually tells you what Queensland Government is looking for. So in that respect, do a little bit of homework and then have a look and see what it is that we may be looking for. Can you offer something that just takes your product to the next level? If somebody's looking, let's say, for workwear, can you supply workwear that's already been pre-embroidered? Now, I know that probably happens already in a lot of industries, but sometimes it's finding that extra little bit that saves somebody having to do something else. That might be where the value is. So take a good hard think about what your customer may be looking for. Now we've got to get it into some language. It's all good and well understanding what your customer may be looking for, but try and put some quantifiable words around what it is. So, we have these movement words like accelerate or grow or shrink or eliminate. They're great words to use, and there's many more than these. These are just some high level sort of examples. The drivers, things like, what's driving that particular decision to be made? Is it about profit margin? Is it about, again, having something on time that's going to save a budget? Is it about winning a greater share of market? All of these drivers are very key considerations when people are looking at procuring goods and services. And of course metrics, time frames, percentages, dollar amounts. It really is worth thinking about ways that you can convey your message. And I guess this ties a little bit into sort of think of the old features and benefits. The benefits are really where you get to demonstrate some of the value. Now, I said at the start of the slide, value is everywhere, and you can demonstrate value in many, many different ways. I'm just going to take a couple of looks here at some slides that talk about different types of value propositions. So a value proposition can be personal. I've used one here that says, my name is Simon and I help businesses grow their understanding of value by providing them with tools necessary to develop an elevator pitch. Did you notice in there that, grow and understanding, they're some of those words we were talking about earlier. They're sort of metric words. I'm not just talking about value, but how you might be able to grow your understanding of that value, and how you may be able to actually develop an elevator pitch. It's about moving you forward on the journey. So it's very, very subtle things, but the way that you pop some of those words into your sentence can very much articulate your value and your capability above and beyond others. Value proposition can be product-based. Again, here we've got an example on the screen about a road closure safety system that informs crews when roads are going to be closed. But it says here, unlike current paper-based systems, this product is web-based and it can be accessed by all contractors anywhere, anytime. We're starting to put some feeling words in there or some movement words in there as well that the business or company looking at the system would be able to relate to. They'd say, that's exactly what we need. Our competitors don't do that, or competitive products don't do that. So there's a bit of the value in that there. So you can sell yourself and the value in yourself. You can sell the value in your product or service. Just ask yourself these couple of key questions when you're sort of trying to pitch, your value here. What business is it that you're in? Well, here, these guys are in the business of sort of road closure safety systems. Just have a think here too. This is always an interesting point. What business are you really in? So if you sell or supply paint, for instance, are you in the paint business? I don't know too many people that buy paint just for the sake of buying paint. I don't know too many people that buy paint to collect paint. Usually they have a use for that paint, and that is to sort of go and splash it on a wall somewhere. So, if you sell paint, you're probably not in the paint business, but you're probably in the home improvement business or general improvement business. So think along those lines about the business that you're in and talk to your customers in a way that they understand. What is the problem that you're solving? Again, many businesses will be able to tell you in their industry, the reason we exist is because we noticed a gap. There was nobody doing this. It was a problem. What problem is there in your line of work that you serve or you answer with your product or service? How does the product that you provide, how does that help address that particular shortfall? And most importantly, what is the benefit to it? Is it going to increased savings or decreased time spent. Put some benefit around that again. We can also have company-based value propositions. I've put an example on the screen here that one of the greatest challenges for SME business owners is, and look, whatever it may be. But then we can really sort of hone in and start to say, on average, clients who have engaged our services will see an increase in website traffic of up to 50%. We could have stopped at saying an increase in website traffic, but you'll notice we've put that metric on the end, increased by 50%. It starts to make it a little bit more tangible and a little bit more relatable to what you may be trying to achieve. So again, value propositions, personal, product, business, use every opportunity to weave value back into anything and everything you can. What I've put up on the screen now is the value proposition canvas, and it was originally developed by Dr. Alexander Oswalder, and it's essentially a framework that helps you, maybe if you're unsure what it is that your particular points of value may be, it enables you to try and pinpoint and work out what it may be. Have a look on the internet, search around. There's some great stuff on things like Google or YouTube or places like that around the value proposition canvas. But essentially, it will enable you to identify what it is that your customer may need to get done, i.e. the customer jobs. It will enable you to identify what the gains are to your customer, but also what some of their pain might be. And of course, once you understand those things from your point of view, you can then take your products and services and you can start to think about, well, how does this increase my customers' gain? How does it put a smile on their face? We call those gain creators. More importantly, do we have pain relievers? If our customers or people that use our product or service, they know this is going to be an issue, they know it's going to be time consuming, or they might have to be without their car for the day whilst it goes in and gets serviced, that sort of thing. What do we have that actually addresses that and almost becomes a pain reliever? And I suppose in the instance of getting your vehicle serviced, yeah, look, it is a bit of a nuisance that you have to drop it off and be without it for a few hours. But if you can have a loan car or a courtesy bus that can sort of run you to the nearest shopping centre, that's the kind of pain relievers we're talking about. So take a bit of time, do some research on this value proposition canvas, and I'm sure it will help you identify some of those gain creators or pain relievers that exist within your business. So that was the module on demonstrating your value. Again, it was just a light touch. If you would like to know more, you can email us at the workshops at dsdilgp.qld.gov.au email address. If you use the question bar on the bottom of the screen, that's where those emails will also go. And of course, we have a number of regional offices throughout Queensland, and on the screen there you can have a look and see where the closest office to you may be. Thank you for your time, and I would like to now introduce Andrea, who will be going with Module 3, Promoting Your Capability. Thank you.